welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you over here. And you are actually right now physically or visiting India. That's where you're from, but you moved to Toronto recently, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I moved to Toronto 6 months back, June. I just came up to my country for a few, professional and personal pending works. So I will be back within next 2 3 months to back to Toronto.
Yeah, because Intrusion X is actually being headquarters in Toronto, and as this being part of the UTE, University of Toronto Entrepreneurship community podcast series, you are part of that community. But and you've told me you're doing things very very fast compared to other startup founders that I've seen. But this also shows from all of your background that is really really impressive. So let's start with that. You started your career very early, and you've done a lot of things back home in India. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my journey in cybersecurity specifically starts 20 years back when I was just 15 years old. I was like teenager, and from my childhood I was very intrigued in computer, very interested in computer. And when I was that age, my like 15 year old age, someone introduced to me into the ethical hacking, or now we known as cybersecurity, and I was very intrigued by the subject, by the terminology, and I started gaining more and more interested, and then I decided to jump into the this entire different world from from the computer itself. Although it's a part of computer, but it's a completely different world. So I after soon after I done a few certifications. Just after that I started working as a freelancer. I worked with governments, local polices to help. I started basically my career as a cybercrime investigator. At the age of 19, I caught by a bug called entrepreneurship, and that's how my entrepreneurship journey started. I started my first ever venture in cybersecurity at the age of 19, called Tekera Cybersecure, which is now it's a like multinational company itself. And I started that company with training sessions and cybercrime investigations. So on behalf of company, I done a lot of projects over the years. And in 2000, I started my this company from my hometown, from where I am right now, Nagpur. And then in the year 2016, I shifted my company to one of the major cities in India called Hyderabad, which is known as IT hub or startup hub as well.
Hmm.
And then we incorporated as a private limited company, and then we started to like providing enterprise service, which include vulnerability assistant, penetrating testing, IT audits, and so on. Uh, right now we have like in Takeda we have a team of 10 people in India.
Hmm.
Recently, last year only, we started one ground level office in Dubai. And uh, I always very much intrigued or very much interested in product itself. I tried before uh, like even I tried 10 years back in 2015 once kind of experiment with software product, but unfortunately that didn't well much monetary, but yeah, it got a lot of attentions and all. And then when I was uh, like in 2017, fortunately I got an opportunity in 2017. I got deployed to the like national security project by government of India.
Hmm.
And in that project I got to know that IoT products, uh, at the time it's very rapidly growing uh, in the country and globally wise as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very vulnerable, and it was attacked by cyber criminals of another countries for the government infrastructure. So
Mm-hmm.
I was very shocked to know that like IoT devices are very much vulnerable and less secure. And at that moment, my like it was like breakthrough moment of the idea was that the idea came that something I have to do in this domain
Yeah.
only in the near future. And
Yes.
that's how the born of Intrusion X happened, much earlier of from its actual inception.
Actually, yes, yes.
Yeah,
That's really interesting. And as I mentioned in the introduction, you have done a lot. I mean, you
yeah,
just came through a bit of it, but winning a local startup reality show, and then becoming like the voice or the leader for young generation in that industry, and many other things you mentioned, the government, and it's really interesting how you doing that work with the government and around different cybersecurity. You already identified that problem, and we usually think about IoT as the little things like the ring or other products that we put, as a camera in front of our doors, or Alexa, or Hey Google, and maybe plugs, smart plugs, and stuff like that. But and I know from personal experience installing that it's always updating the firmware, or at least it's always updating the last one when you install it. I don't know if it does it later. I have no
yeah,
idea.
exactly.
But this is just one segment of usage of IoT. IoT is used heavily also in enterprises, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about that problem first, and then what's your goal about with Intrusion X to solve it?
Yeah. So the problem is what I identify as a entrepreneur, as a cybersecurity person, that most of the IoT devices either come with low encryption, either with I mean, or with no encryption. So they have very because of their hardware structure, they come just like Alexa you mentioned, or any other like Google Home and so on. The itself hardware structure is very small in the size, so it's very difficult or next to impossible to implement encryption bit just like 64-bit, 120-bit, or 256-bit and so on. So that's why we are globally we are facing or lacking security on the hardware chip itself, and that's why it's very easy to target those devices or and enter through those devices to the network, because 10 years back IoT devices were just come into the picture, were not that much vulnerable. At the time other doors will open was open, but now that doors certainly closed by the companies and governments, but now this another door called IoT is open for the hackers or cyber criminals.
It's a back door, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big door. It's a very big door because lot now the scenario is whether it's a personal on a personal front, on a professional front, we are surrounded by IoT devices, and it's very vulnerable. Even if you notice that IoT devices like Alexa and Google, here our things get the information uh, silently and pass it to the company. So even that sometimes, I mean, like 2 3 years back, the government of US itself put a question on this devices, how genuine these devices, if they are getting information silently of our regular talks and all. So it's a big concern of security and privacy itself. So now, to be honest, in my view, we are not. Uh, we are very like we don't have privacy in our home itself because we don't know the next device to you is listening to your conversation or to private chats and all, and pass it to the company, or maybe upload it to the clouds and all, and
Yeah.
your personal detail will upload to the world,
Yes.
upload to the cloud.
Yes. Do you see this as a problem with only unknown brand names of IoT devices, or is it a common problem also with the known names? Like, is it everywhere across the industry?
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And
Hmm.
you might shock to hear that 43% of the cyber attacks, of the global cyber attacks, is just on IoT devices. So how big number is that? So it's near about almost 50, you can consider, as in upcoming days or upcoming few years. Almost 50 percent of the total cybersecurity cyber crimes of just is happening on IoT devices. So it's a big concern, and it's nothing to do with the brand name or the company's name, because doesn't matter how much you do as a company to protect your IoT devices or put something on the other on these devices. Uh, Hackers or cyber criminals are always one step ahead of us. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's they always find somehow the way to break the those products or the
Yeah, I can
those.
imagine when thinking about cybersecurity. I'm not. That's not my background, but so I'm thinking about things quite simple, either attacks that happen to me, uh, or stories that I've heard, in the news, etc. But just thinking about, for example, viruses on a computer, if you have the right antivirus system that also will update itself on a regular basis, and it's quite easy because it's only software and it's connected to the internet, so you could update it on a regular basis. You could push updates to it. That seems like, these days at least, an easy thing that the consumers don't have to think about much. But if I think about all of those IoT devices that I have in my house, they are connected to the Wi Fi, but I'm not replacing them on a regular basis. Like I mentioned before, I have no idea how often the firmware is actually being updated, if it's being updated by the manufacturer, because I don't know if they have even access to it remotely through
Exactly.
the Wi-Fi, etc. So I do seem to understand the severity of that issue. Now, going now to your solution, tell us a little about how you're planning to solve this problem.
So, thanks for your question. So, we are, when we identify, me and my team, so we thought of, because there are already available solution in the market. But the problem with that solution, either they come up with the purely into, either they deal with purely into hardware, or they purely deal into software. And when you mingle hardware with software, so it's very unsynchronized manner, and a lot of problem or chaos is happening with their solutions, what we identified. And we identified the problem, one of the major problem is that IoT device is not that much secure. Even if the existing solution is there, is quite easy to like penetrate and hack into those devices. And that's why most of the companies fail when they launch their product. After a few years they failed, although they will not commit upfront. But because we are into the industry from last 20 years and so on, so we know the flaws of those companies. So that's what we come up with. We are introducing industry's first ever, or world's first ever, hardware plus software solution, which is known as Quix and Abacus. Quix is basically a uh, hardware component or hardware devices which which you can put behind the router and behind your firewall of the network, and it will exclusively for the IoT devices. It's nothing much. It's not a firewall, to be honest, because firewall mostly for the entire network and all. uh, and it's neither the antivirus nor the firewall. It's exclusively you can consider the firewall for the IoT devices.
I see.
So when you put it, it automatically read all the IoT devices, automatically scan for the IoT devices. When it's got all the IoT devices added, immediately start monitoring and start its activity on those IoT devices 24 into 7. And you can monitor, even we as a company monitor through the other platform called Abacus. So it's a very intelligent, we are building intelligent platform using AI, which can monitor your the whole activity of those IoT devices uh, 24 into 7 through that platform.
I see. I see.
And
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and we are very proud to tell you. I can proud to tell you that we just collaborate with IBM for the because they have their own platform called Watson AI. So we got official their enterprise edition of their product, and we are working. My team is working on that.
Hmm. Very interesting. So the intention there is to have that hardware software combination. Does that mean that it's going to be mainly for enterprises that are usually will have, networks and installations of different types of hardware, or do you also foresee that homeowners will be using that?
So mostly, to be honest, it's for enterprises users because the problem is we what we identified the problem is in enterprises users are facing very vast problem because they have lots and lots of data, crucial data,
Yes.
as compared to the home users. But not necessary because in some cases home users as well finding these problems. They got hacked, their even personal data is compromised, personal information, privacy, like personal photos and so on, compromised and put into the
Yeah.
internet, especially celebrities, because people are very keen to know about their personal lives and so on.
Yeah. And
uh,
and
so
abuse.
uh,
Hmm.
yeah, so our plan is to launch this product in the like phase one for the business users and the enterprise users or corporate users, you can say. And when it will success in the market, when we get that level of feedback, positive feedback from the users, then we will think to launch in the you know in the next phase of for the home user as well.
Right, for consumers. So you
Yeah.
can make like a smaller version of that, or a version that doesn't need to support maybe hundreds of IoT devices, but maybe much smaller number of devices, etc. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, B2B is definitely a way that many startup founders go with, because the risks are higher for businesses, for enterprises, and they need to invest in prevention methods like that. So that sounds like the right approach over there. So you mentioned before that you moved to Canada recently, and you are headquartered in you basically moved your headquarter of Intrusion X in Toronto, and you're part of the University of Toronto entrepreneurship community. Tell us a bit about that experience. What part of the community are you? Because, as I mentioned before, you're moving very fast. So I've seen you not just there, but also in other places around the city. But how does the UTE help you?
Yeah. So the journey started with this. As I mentioned earlier, that early this year we came up with our prototype. We started this company and this product making from last years. We incorporated in Toronto itself, and although my partner or my co-founder was already in Toronto, I moved to Toronto this year, and we actively working on that product. So after just after come up with our prototype. We just got into uh, Canada's first ever and first or biggest hardware accelerator called Venture Lab early this year, and we are fortunate for that. And because we are coming with like cybersecurity background or business background, we have very limited knowledge or experience or exposure of hardware. So Venture Lab is the best place, for the hardware products and so on. So it's a special mention to the Venture Lab. After that, I got to know that University of Toronto itself has its own accelerator program or incubation program. So we applied for the CDL, Creative Destruction Lab, and we got accepted. Apart from that, we are also part of UOT on ramp. We are on ramp member. So it's a good thing because on one side we are getting all the necessary exposure or information related to hardware from Venture Lab. On the other side, we are getting all the information or exposure related to business marketing of the product from University of Toronto. So it's very, it's a very good combination. It's we got very good opportunity from both the big brands in
Amazing.
the Canada itself,
Yeah.
that we consider ourselves as a like fortunate.
Yeah, that's a great places to be. Absolutely. Um, so one more question about the product itself. What stage are you at right now? Like, are people already can see it, or contact you to try it out?
Yeah, definitely. As I told you earlier, that we early this year, maybe in the I think in the March and April, we come up with our prototype, and till date, we are working on our product itself. We just got few pilot programs. We just entered into one of the pilot program I would like to mention is Rogers. We got accepted into Rogers cybersecurity, catalyst program, and we consider as a fortunate because we got this opportunity, amazing opportunity, as we all know that Rogers is big brand in the Canada. It's a big organization, so we got accepted in that to try our prototype or to to perform pilots, you know, uh, on their on live sites for our product. So it's a good opportunity for us, first of all. And yes, if any enterprise users wanted to test it, our product, we are open for that. So we are right now we are in our third phase of the prototype, and soon we will come up with early next year we are coming up with our MVP, minimum viable product, which will be like commercialized product basically. Sorry. As I mentioned earlier that we come up with our prototype last year, and we already testing out few with few big brands like Rogers. We also in talks with few other brands called Accenture itself. We just had the conversation itself, and uh, you know we just within few months or within few days we are coming up with MVP, and we are almost ready with our workflow and all. So we are working on. My team is working on day and night on the building a product, hardware product. So soon, the customer will get a commercialized product in the market.
Yeah, yeah. And for the listeners that might see this a bit later, please, if this is something that you need for your enterprise, reach out to Akshay and check with him, because I'm sure by the time that you will listen to this or see this, it might be already available for you to try. Great. I want also to. You have a lot of experience as a founder. So, what might be your number one tip for other startup founders that you want to share?
Sorry, pardon me. Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, yeah. As a startup founder, what
Mhm.
might be like a number one tip that
Number one.
you would share with other founders that are starting the way, because you've started a while ago. You're already a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Right. As you rightly said, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I have a exposure. Again, I'm saying I'm a very fortunate to get exposure in multiple industries, right from cybersecurity to health tech to fintech to edutech and social enterprise itself.
Hmm.
So I've over the last few years wore lot of hats, in the industry itself. So fortunately, I have that exposure, and on that basis, I can say to other founders who are uh, willing to start or who are just started, like aspiring entrepreneur or maybe the young entrepreneurs, I can give the only one advice: just believe in yourself, and doesn't matter how much time it take to build that your product or dream company or something, whatever you wanted to build, the next big thing. Just believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to take risk. Don't be afraid to be failed, because failure is a part of the journey. And don't be afraid to be lonely, because when you start your company, the first thing, you know you become lonely. Startup journey is always a lonely journey, because all of your friends, colleagues, uh, like family, friends, everything is doing, for example, job, 9 to
Yeah,
5 job,
yeah.
and you choose different path. So it's very kind of lonely journey. So it's like a tunnel, to be honest. For me, it's like a tunnel. You firstly you find a darkness, but you when you start moving, at the end you will definitely find a light.
You will see the light, and then you will follow the light, and it becomes bigger and bigger. I love that. And it is a theme that comes back again and again with other founders that came on the show, about how lonely it can be, but also try to find your tribe, um, other people that are doing it, connecting with them, asking for help, etc. And you're definitely doing that in Toronto. That's how we also met, through some
Yeah,
of those networking.
yeah.
So I love that you're doing that over here. Amazing. I want to move to our next section of the podcast, where we are doing a little workshopping of a product challenge that you might have. So, which product challenge are you now facing that you would like to discuss?
So the two major challenges we are facing right now. First is the funding, because it's since I mean it's a hardware product, so it always gets a lot of funding to build the product. It's not easy. First of all, it's not easy to build hardware product, because in building a hardware product itself, there are a lot of challenges came right from funding to making the product, and there are a lot of like uh, expertise also required for that, especially hardware specialist or hardware engineers, so on, which is not easily available in the market. And if they available, they charge a lot of money, a lot of dollars. For definitely for making or building that hardware product, we need a lot of funding. First of all, first challenge is that. Second challenge is uh, uh, we are yet to find the appropriate like hardware components, because uh, you will never know that, uh, because we just came up or we enter into hardware industry, as I told you. We are coming with like software mostly, like cybersecurity and all. So we have very limited hardware exposure. So it's a very we are finding very quite difficulty to finalize the hardware component, because you never know the hardware you component you select will like fail or will burn while you're making. So it's very important to select appropriate company's hardware components to
Yeah,
fit will be like
yeah,
fit into your product.
yeah.
So
Okay, so let's see. I don't know if I can answer the first one, because getting money is definitely on everyone's wish list, and being able to raise the funds. And to me, also, is it a product challenge? I'm not sure. It's might be a bit more of a business challenge, but what vendors, investors are looking for is to see traction. And sometimes it's like the chicken and the egg. What comes
Yeah,
first?
yeah, exactly.
How would you make the chicken without having the egg, and how would you make the egg without having the chicken? So you will need to raise some funds, especially when you're talking about hardware, which is a much, like you mentioned, a harder area to build and take longer time. So I would say that definitely you are in the right places in the ecosystem, mentioning before UTE and mentioning Venture Lab. So those places can definitely introduce you to the right people, and I'm sure also for the right people that will help you to select the right components. What I would like to think about from a product perspective is how can you make the lowest investment in building something that will prove that this is working and will create the value that people will want more of it, right? So I always look at it like that. With software, it might sound easier because you don't need to, you just write code, but you still have to find the right solution. So even though it sounds easier, the solutions we might think is the right solution might not work for the users and for the industry, and it may not create value. I think the value that you're talking about is definitely defined. Like, to me, at least, hearing from the sidelines, the problem is well defined. The need is well defined because you can quantify it by how much money people are and companies are losing through those type of the intrusions and attacks, right? Cyber attacks. So the solution itself, like what it should do, seems easier to me because it should block those attacks, right? And your success could be measured, your KPI could be measured by blocking those attacks. Then the question is, how can you build something very quickly and cheaply to prove that? Now, some thoughts that I have in my head are maybe to partner with some IoT companies. So they will, because they know the problem and because they have access to a lot of companies that are using the product, maybe they can help with some of the funding. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. I'm just throwing ideas there.
yeah,
Um, and another thing is, or alternatively, or maybe it's a tripled venture with IoT producers, but also with component producers like hardware component producers, and maybe they will be willing to chip in as well, because at the end of the day, you are their client and user,
yeah,
so they will
absolutely.
want. If they see the value in what you're building, and I'm sure they will want their product, their hardware, component to be
Hmm.
successful, and they might help you get there, right?
Yeah,
So that's an idea that I just maybe try
yeah,
to approach.
yeah. Thank you for your idea and suggestion. So I would like to share that we already in talks with few companies. Uh,
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah. One is based out of Toronto itself called Teltonica. It's a very big global company, IoT device, IoT manufacturing device, specifically routers and switches. So we are in talks with them. We are also in talks with one of the leading company from US who build Wi-Fi routers as well. So we are in talk with them as well, and yeah. And regarding prototype, we are using right now this uh, called Raspberry Pi. So it's a cheap, as you discussed, as
Yes.
you mentioned, that it's a cheap option to right now to use as a for the pilot programs and all. And the good thing is in hardware, the traction is not matter in terms of monetary, but the traction in terms count. They count itself as a how much uh, pilot you done something, or maybe some
Yeah.
collaborations you done or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing in the hardware industry.
Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that in your case also, it doesn't even matter how the device looks like. It's really
Yeah,
sitting tucked away somewhere. It can look like, anything almost. So any simple type of frame for a server or for network devices, and those exist out there like plenty. So you don't have to worry about, designing something that will look pretty in the hands of your users, right? So that also reduces some of those user interface dilemmas that some people will have.
yeah, absolutely. So, as you rightly said, that look and design is not matter in our case, but functionalities matter. And right now, what we are using, like Raspberry Pi, it's capable to secure 20 IoT device at a time, which is good enough for the pilot or as a prototype. But if we want to secure or like target bigger corporation or enterprises where thousands and thousands of IoT devices are there, like 5,000, so we need to build our own hardware from the scratch. So that is what we are facing challenge or limitation in the prototype itself. But for the pilot, I mean testings and all, Raspberry Pi or any such device is very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I don't know if even if you're not aiming to consumers at the moment. Maybe some consumers will be, because they're small. There is no need for approvals. Usually, it's just the homeowners, right, approving things. Maybe it's going to be easy also to attract some of those for some of the small testings. So if someone has a home with 10, 20 devices and they still want to be secure and they're worried about security, maybe that's an approach as well. So you don't need to, I mean, the closing cycle might be much faster and you can test things in a much smaller scale, but then you can scale them up.
Yeah, definitely. For testing purpose, home user as well, it's very good option for just to test our product. But when it comes to be honest, when it comes to like investors pitching it, they are mainly looking for enterprise
Mm,
feedback, because
mm,
they enterprise are more authentic as compared to home users.
I see.
Uh,
I see.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
It's yeah, it's a different market.
yeah,
So the market fit is different. With consumers, it's definitely all about prices and how much people can afford. And you have to really reach volumes before you can make a lot of return on your investments. Great. No, I hope this helped. Again, I don't know a lot about raising funds other than what I'm hearing, but it's not my expertise. So hopefully, those few tips were helpful.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It will definitely helpful for the raising of the funds and
Amazing.
to go ahead in our product journey for sure.
And also, if any one of our listeners or viewers that are watching this and you're interested in either trialing the product at your enterprise or putting money in or helping with building it, then just contact Akshay, and we will have the contact information in the episode notes. Um, Now we're getting to the last segment, which is the rapid questions, and I'm going to ask you 5 rapid questions that I'm asking everyone, and just whatever comes to you. It could be one word, it could be few words, but as a rapid questions, it's quick. So you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So the first question is, what is your biggest inspiration?
In terms of person, you're asking?
Anything.
Okay, so in terms of person, Steve Jobs is my biggest inspiration all of the
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
So I came into not just into entrepreneurship, but into computer industry itself because of Steve
Because of Steve
Jobs.
Jobs. Yeah, he inspires a lot of people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Core value.
My core value is I'm highly professional, highly like ethical, highly moral. So my life is based on my high principles and morals. That is my
Hmm.
core value.
I can see how ethical hacking attracted you at the time and how you
Yeah.
got to where you are from that. Next question, to AI or not to AI?
To be AI for sure.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
think everyone are answering the same these days. I'm still asking this question because I was interesting also to see people reaction when I ask it.
So
Um, yeah,
yeah. So we are into Toronto, and Toronto is epicenter of AI. So
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
um, Next question: proudest moment.
Proudest moment when I got a national award back, almost 10 years back from Government of India. That was my proudest moment. First proudest moment, and second proudest moment is when I won India's first startup reality show, Hustle Ki Run. That
Yeah,
is the second proudest.
amazing. And then last question: what is your next goal?
Uh, my next goal is to launch this product, and for sure, to be and as soon as to be in the market and take it ahead. Definitely, it's not a small goal; it's a big goal and a lot of effort for that. And because the industry itself, I mean the cybercrime on IoT attack is very rapidly fasting. So my goal right now is to secure as much as IoT products globally with our product. You know.
So basically, to make the world of IoT shut down from any attacks, cyber
Yeah.
attacks.
Yeah. Right.
Amazing,
Exactly.
amazing. Would you like to add anything else to our viewers?
First of all, I'm very thankful and very humbled to be part of your podcast. And I would like to just share one thing that do not ever give up on your dreams. First of all, just go on. Doesn't matter. In fact, I'm the live example from where I started 20 years back, and from I never had an idea that I became a part of global city called Toronto, Canada, and I met people like you and different people, set of people globally. So, and I had a lot of moments of giving up in my life, but I choose not to give up. Give up is the most easiest term, but at the same time, never give up is the most hardest term. The more you are grind in your journey, the more successful you will be then in the later part of your journey.
Yeah, I love that message. Thank you so much for that. It's a great reminder for all of us. There is always
Yeah,
hard times, and
yeah,
climbing up, we and not giving up is so important. And what you
yeah.
said also before about finding your community and getting others to help each other. I really love that. Thank you so much, Akshay, for joining us today. It was a great having you.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching us. This is Moshe Mikanovsky, and we are Beyond Product Podcast. We'll see you again next time. Take care, everyone.